Control plus J. The wind cuts like a blade through the shattered ruins of what used to be your neighborhood, and in the fading light of a world plunged into blackout, you feel the raw terror of knowing that without fire, this is your last night alive. SHTF has stripped away every convenience, leaving you soaked to the skin in driving rain, your body heat leaching away at an alarming rate as hypothermia tightens its grip, clouding your thoughts and weakening your limbs until survival becomes impossible. The danger here is not dramatic explosions or marauding threat, but the insidious cold that statistics from real emergency management reports show kills more people in the initial days of grid-down events than any other single factor, because without reliable fire, you cannot dry your clothes, cannot raise your core temperature above the critical 95 degrees Fahrenheit threshold, cannot boil water to eliminate waterborne pathogens like those causing cholera or giardia outbreaks in collapsed infrastructure, and cannot cook food to break down proteins and destroy bacteria that would otherwise lead to rapid dehydration and organ failure in the chaos of supply chain failure. When you stop to analyze why so many prepared individuals still succumb in these scenarios, the cold truth emerges that conventional fire-starting tools and methods are fundamentally flawed under prolonged adverse conditions, where lighters fail due to butane evaporation in freezing temperatures, matches dissolve in humidity exceeding 70%, and even stocked ferro rods are wasted through improper application that scatters ineffective sparks into wet environments. Analysis of documented survival cases from events like major blackouts and natural disasters reveals that exposure deaths surge dramatically when ignition attempts fail repeatedly, as people exhaust their limited resources on methods that ignore the precise environmental variables of wind speeds above 15 miles per hour and material moisture content above 20% that render standard approaches useless, turning what should be a simple act of survival into a fatal drain on already depleted energy reserves. This failure traces back to a pervasive misunderstanding that fire starting is an instinctive act requiring nothing more than a spark and some dry wood, a belief fostered by modern life where ignition is as simple as flipping a switch, leading preppers to assume that any basic kit will perform when the grid collapses and normalcy ends. They overlook how the average person underestimates the energy barrier to combustion, believing that frantic rubbing or striking will overcome the scientific realities of wet tinder absorbing heat without igniting, or insufficient oxygen flow smothering nascent embers before they can sustain themselves, a misconception that has doomed countless individuals who thought the process was merely about luck rather than engineered precision. Yet the hidden science that changes everything lies in mastering the combustion triangle of fuel, oxygen, and heat, combined with the thermochemical process of pyrolysis, where organic materials heated in low oxygen environments decompose into volatile gases at temperatures starting around 300 degrees Celsius, releasing flammable vapors that ignite readily and sustain the reaction through exothermic chain propagation. This principle is exemplified in char cloth, created through controlled pyrolysis of 100% cotton fabric, sealed in an airtight container over heat, resulting in a material with an ignition temperature as low as 349 degrees Celsius, far below the 400 to 500 degrees needed for untreated wood, because the pre-carbonized structure allows immediate oxidation upon contact with a spark, producing a long smoldering ember rather than a fleeting flash. Evidence from centuries of indigenous techniques, modern survival engineering studies, and controlled experiments by bushcraft experts confirms this, with ferrocerium rods generating sparks exceeding 3,000 degrees Celsius that ignite properly prepared char cloth at success rates approaching 95%, even in damp conditions. Unlike direct tinder strikes that fail 80% of the time in real-world adverse weather recreations documented in combustion research, the survival implications cannot be overstated in a collapse scenario. By applying this hidden science, you create a reliable ignition source that allows you to generate life-saving heat in under 2 minutes, drying sodden clothing to prevent conductive heat loss at rates of up to 25 times faster in wet fabric, purifying water through sustained boiling that destroys 99.9% of pathogens as recommended by emergency health protocols, and maintaining morale and tactical advantage through light and warmth that deter opportunistic threats during urban survival or bug-out operations, turning the tide from victim to survivor while conserving precious calories for critical decisions rather than wasting them on